Ever look back at your life and get this sinking feeling that all your unrewarded time, the struggles, the weird detours, the quiet, painful defeats, was just one massive waste? Well, stick with me through this explainer because today we are setting the stage for a seriously powerful psychological reframe. We're going to uncover the hidden, practically unbreakable strength that gets forged in the fires of life's absolute hardest moments. And by the end of this, I promise you're going to see your past through an entirely new, incredibly empowering lens.
Okay, let's dive into this. Look, it is absolutely exhausting to feel stuck. To feel like you're just spinning your wheels in the mud while everyone else seems to be effortlessly gliding forward, hitting all those neat little life milestones. It's completely valid to feel incredibly tired from carrying the weight of all that unrewarded effort. But I really want you to ask yourself, has your suffering truly been meaningless?
I want to just take a beat here and really let this philosophical anchor sink in. The idea that you're just a passive observer in your own life, or that you've somehow simply been left behind, is a total illusion. And it's an illusion we are about to completely shatter. That unrewarded time you've endured, it isn't some empty void. It's actually the intensive excavation process required to build a profoundly deep and rooted life. Now, what's genuinely fascinating is how we can take some of the most common, painful life detours and literally flip them on their head. We're going to look at exactly what society loves to call weaknesses or failures and uncover the massive psychological advantages they've actually handed you. Let's start with scattered interests. Maybe you've got a graveyard of half-finished hobbies sitting in your closet right now. The guitar you played exactly twice, or that intense coding boot camp you bailed on after 3 weeks. Society is so quick to label this as being unfocused. But those scattered experiences don't just magically disappear. They silently ferment in your mind. You aren't quitting, you're actually cross-training your brain. A person who dips into multiple different fields develops this incredibly sophisticated, multifaceted way of thinking. You gain the unique ability to view the world from a dozen different angles, combining frameworks to solve problems in ways a super narrowly focused person just simply can't do.
Or consider romantic passivity. When you hesitate to make a move or when you let a chance slip right through your fingers, it's so easy to beat yourself up over it. You think it's this fundamental flaw. But try flipping the perspective. That hesitation is actually a feature, not a bug. It stems from a really deep underlying sincerity and an absolute refusal to treat other people's hearts carelessly. By stepping back, you haven't been weak. You've actually been building an unbreakable foundation of genuine compassion and profound empathy.
Let's move a little deeper and see how this builds, because we're going to shift our focus now toward heavier emotional and social traumas. We're talking about the kinds of wounds that don't just cause a passing regret, but actual, lasting pain. If you've spent a huge chunk of your life dealing with social awkwardness, feeling totally suffocated in groups, or just completely isolated, you probably think you're fundamentally broken. You aren't. Feeling suffocated in a room full of people isn't a glitch in your personality. It's a massive indicator of a highly attuned nervous system. Because you feel the friction of human interaction so intensely, you've developed this rare, almost radar-like capacity to spot and validate the pain of someone else sitting quietly in the corner. Then there's the deep trauma of betrayal. Believing you were engaging honestly with someone, only to realize you were just being utilized. Man, that burns. But look at the aftermath. Betrayal acts as a harsh but incredibly effective teacher. Sure, it strips away your naivety, but it gives you with real psychological armor. It forcefully teaches you the complex reality of human nature when self-interest is on the line. And that gives you a permanent protective power to read the room and see true intentions miles before anyone else does.
And what about financial hardship? The crushing, keep you up at night anxiety of unpaid bills and staring right at rock bottom. Honestly, surviving that kind of pressure does something truly remarkable to a human being. It builds a fierce, instinctual ability to crawl your way back up from literally anywhere. When you know the actual physical weight of a single coin, you develop a deep, unshakable appreciation for value. You stop wasting time, you stop wasting your resources, and you definitely stop wasting genuine human connections.
We also have to talk about continuous defeats, watching everyone else effortlessly cross the finish line while you're still stuck at the starting block. Well, here's the secret. Winners only know victory, but those who have been on a losing streak, they gain exclusive, highly specialized knowledge of how to take a hit, fall hard, and somehow stand back up again. This gives you ultimate tolerance and makes you uniquely equipped to support other people who are hurting. You essentially hold a map of the valley that people who've only ever lived on the peak will simply never possess.
Let's just take a breath here for a second, because some detours aren't choices, and they aren't social situations. Sometimes our own bodies betray us. What happens when an illness or a sudden injury permanently alters our path, forcing us to live with lasting physical changes and the really deep grief of losing capabilities we once completely took for granted?
There's this profound Japanese concept that translates roughly to living is a pure gain. Let that sit with you for a moment. When you brush that closely against your own mortality, or you're forced to face a permanent physical limitation, society's loud obsession with status and hustle is just violently stripped away. You suddenly realize the baseline isn't success. The baseline is zero. And therefore simply breathing, simply standing, simply existing for just one more day is pure gain. It's an absolute miracle all on its own.
But here brings us to a really fascinating psychological twist. What happens when a person who has endured all of this suffering, the betrayal, the failures, the illness, finally actually encounters happiness? Oddly enough, we almost always sabotage it. But why? It all comes down to a concept known as the starved heart. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when your heart has been deprived of joy for years. Happiness doesn't feel like a relief anymore, it feels like a threat. It triggers a literal survival response. You react with an overwhelming fear of loss, so you grip that new relationship or that job or that situation so tightly out of sheer terror of losing it that you end up accidentally suffocating the exact joy you've waited your whole entire life for. So if you're recognizing that starved heart within yourself right now, the antidote isn't to grip tighter. It's to slowly, deliberately redefine what happiness is. Happiness is not some rare, high-stakes prize waiting to be snatched away. It's not something you have to hoard and fiercely protect. It's simply meant to be a daily, gentle extension of your peace. The key to actually keeping happiness is slowly filling that starved heart and trusting that joy is just a continuous state of being you are finally allowed to inhabit. Yet even once we understand all of this, there's usually one final, overarching anxiety lingering in the background. What if you feel like a late bloomer, but you secretly fear you might never actually bloom at all? What if you reach the very end of your timeline and there is no grand, confetti-dropping societal success to show for all those crazy detours? So the absolutely crucial point here is that we have to completely detach from the illusion of the grand finale. True success isn't a giant golden trophy at the end of the race. It is the quiet accumulation of joy. It's the profound comfort of just holding a warm cup of coffee in a freezing morning. It's the sacred safety of a quiet room where absolutely no one expects a single thing from you. It's a gentle, authentic conversation with a friend, the sheer act of breathing. If your life is built on a foundation of these undeniable, tiny moments, you have already bloomed.
Everything you have been through, the scattered paths, the betrayals, hitting financial rock bottom, the physical grief, literally none of it was a waste. Your pain is the literal foundation of your peace today. It's exactly what gave you your empathy, your multifaceted mind, and your fierce, unshakable resilience. Everything you survived was the brutal but absolutely necessary architecture of your character. So I want to leave you with this. If your past wasn't a waste, but actually a highly specialized training ground, what are you uniquely equipped to build next? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer. Keep moving forward.